Welcome to Kingdom Now, the podcast featuring faith with an edge, as we celebrate the kingdom of God within you. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Marino, apostle, author, and theologian, and founder of Spitfire Apostolic Ministries and all the works that go along with it. I'm excited to share this program with you as we explore the ins and outs of counterculture Christianity present as you live out the kingdom of God in your everyday life. Want to learn more? Visit my website at kingdompowernow.org. And now, our program, which features a variety of formats here just for you. Interviews, teaching and preaching proclaimed everywhere from my North Carolina studio to Sanctuary and beyond. And powerful insights here for now as we turn the world upside down everywhere we go. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy whatever time of day it is wherever you are. And to our listeners in Georgia, we say, Gamada Joba. I hope to God I said that correctly. And we hope that whatever time of day it is when you are listening, that you are having a good one. And I welcome you to this edition of the Kingdom Now podcast. And I am your host, Apostle Dr. Leanne Marino, here as the Spitfire, serving as the voice of counterculture Christianity, where we feature the theme of faith with an edge. And if you'd like to learn more about the world of counterculture Christianity, feel free to visit my website at kingdompowernow.org. How to tell a scammer. Well, several years ago, I knew two women online, both of which who were older, and one was part of my ministry, and one was a widow that I knew from Facebook. And the story of these two women is that they totally and completely despised each other in a rivalry that was almost comical to watch. The one I knew from my ministry didn't like the other because she felt she made bad decisions and was then overly dramatic about them. Well, one of these decisions involved a situation where she was asked for $6,000 from a scammer. And she called me up and left me a voicemail that whatever God told me to tell her to do, she would do. Well, she wound up giving the scammer $6,000, which isn't what I told her to do. But apparently that's what she did, and it had all sorts of long-term complications for her in the long run, because obviously that was a very bad decision. If you're on social media at all, whether it's just somewhere as simple as Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, you've probably encountered a scammer, even if you're not aware of it. Long associated with dating sites, and yes, they are definitely on those. Scammers have a reputation for being a laughable nuisance, something that seems to come along as one thing, but is really something else. As we can tell in the story I told at the top of this program, the problem of scammers online isn't isolated, nor is it just cute little fodder for storytelling. Scammers online cost people $2.7 billion in 2021, estimating that 1 in 4 people lost money through online fraud. And with new methods all the time and new ways to try and scam people out of money, the question becomes, how do we identify a scammer online? Let's start by talking about what's an online scam. The original purpose of the internet was communication. It was to connect people with each other, to share information with each other, especially in particularly free resources. Now, that probably sounds awfully far-fetched today because, as with most things now, the internet is definitely not a free resource anymore overall. It's actually difficult, although it's not impossible, to find much online that's free these days. And that means are places that are free, at least on the introductory level. So somewhere like, for example, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, even though they might have tiers now where you can pay for subscriptions, they're basically free on an introductory level for most users. They're havens for people who are not just looking for a free place to chat. They're also looking to scam people for free. And it's not exactly a secret that sites such as Facebook haven't been the best at sorting through fake profiles. And they tend not to remove those fake profiles, even though we might report them and notify the company that, hey, you've got a scammer problem here. They often tell us the profiles aren't in violation of the site's terms of use. And so that leaves those who are using the service for what it's for vulnerable to these people who are on there to scam. An online scam is any attempt by one source to extract money or personal information with the goal of stealing from that individual from another source. There's more online scams than we can easily cover in one episode, but they range from ones where you have no contact with someone else, where, for example, they send you an email and the email looks like it comes from your bank or from Amazon or from maybe even sometimes a friend that might be somebody you know online or some other site, in the hopes that you'll click on it and you'll give them your personal information so that they can hack your account. Other scams might look like online ads that if you click on them, they request sensitive information. Or they might be a game somebody might want to play. Now, not all online games are scams, but there are some that front as that. Or something that you download to your computer or phone or open, such as an email link, or a video, or maybe an email attachment. All of these are scams. They're things meant to look like one thing to deceive, but the intention is that you will provide whatever the information is that they want. But there are also scams that are more interpersonal, ones by which individuals take time to engage other people in the hopes they will build their confidence and make you believe they are someone they aren't, especially when it comes to being personally interested or invested in them. And it's this specific form of a scam that we're going to be looking at today. These scams are what we might call a scam by relationship. What happens is, in a scam by relationship situation, you don't have the impersonal world of clicking a link or watching a video, things that you can obviously choose not to do. You have an actual person that talks to you as another person. In some instances, these individuals might call, like through the phone, and tell you that an account of yours has been hacked or attacked, and you need to provide them with certain information, like maybe they need you to give them control of your computer from a remote point, or maybe they want your social security number because they feel somebody's using it, and they need your address and your age and your birth date, and they need your social security number to verify so that they can send you a new one. And for the record, government agencies do not call on the phone. If there's some sort of activity or problem with your social security number, you are not going to be contacted by phone about that. But they make it sound urgent. They make it sound like if you do not give them this information this second, your world is going to fall apart. Now, what they don't really consider is that what people don't really consider when they're dealing with something like this is that by answering their questions, you are making your world fall apart. You are opening the door to have a long-term number of issues on account of giving them that information. Some also might offer a fake promotion or represent a fake charity or other organization that requests money, or offer a fake job opportunity. Or they might use the example of saying that you won the lottery, or some kind of international sweepstakes, or some kind of award. But there's some sort of tax or other fee that has to be paid up front before winnings can be provided, usually through gift cards or through Western Union. But the best known and most prevalent of all interpersonal scams are the romance scams. These scams are usually done out of mass warehouses, particularly in West Africa, specifically Nigeria and Ghana, where dozens of people are crowded together on laptops, desktops, around Wi Fi areas, or other places where many can congregate, and they run through different dating and social media sites, creating profiles based on what they believe will be the most appealing to their demographic. So, scammers have a singular backdrop story, infiltrated with other specifics that are often alike, and create a dating experience that's based on the things they perceive about the United States and those they expect American women to gravitate toward. How I would describe it is that scammers create a fictitious man around the ideals they expect from romance movies. It's very much character, one that reflects a lack of understanding about American life and American men, not to mention the realities of life in American dating. And the stories often weave in characteristics that make dating or meeting near impossible. Being in the military is a common theme. They claim they are U.S. soldiers abroad on a specific mission, usually somewhere that's both dangerous and exotic at the same time. And they can't tell you anything about where they are or what they're doing, such as unit information or an APO address. But despite this fact, if you raise too many questions, you might be able to get an email from his commander totally confirming his story, which, heads up, that's not a thing in the real military. If they want to leave to go home, they claim they can't do that without a leave form, which then they tell you costs a fee. Now, there's a partial truth in here. To go on military leave for a period of time, there is often a leave form involved. But it doesn't cost the military member anything to file the form. Sometimes there might be a cost within the command to send a fax or something like that, but it's not anything so outrageous somebody couldn't handle it. Sometimes their military stories overlap with others. The person might be a surgeon on some sort of special assignment as a lay doctor or a lay pilot, or something along those lines. Something that has the exotic, handsome, wealthy stranger coming to the aid of people in war-torn nations through the U.S. military. Now, this is not a thing in the military, and it's important to know that. In the United States, the military sometimes does contract civilians to help with something in the United States, but they would never be out for deployment in another country under contract from the U.S. military. It's not a thing. Military doctors are military doctors, not contracted civilians, because it's way too much of a liability to send a civilian into a war zone. It's too high risk to send someone with no training out into that kind of a situation. If a doctor is overseas in a war zone, it's likely through an organization, such as Doctors Without Borders, or the Peace Corps, or something like that, and possibly operating therein without interference from the government. But the average person doesn't know these specific ins and outs of the military, especially in this specific context. Most Americans don't have an intimate working knowledge of the military, at least not nowadays, unless they were in it or they had a family member who was in it. And even sometimes, depending on the family member, you may not know very much. Like, for example, my father was in the military in the 50s and the 60s. My father died not all that long ago, and I had not spoken with him in a number of years before he died. So his experience with the military was very, very different than maybe a modern experience with the military. And to be quite honest, it really was not something he ever talked about. It wasn't really ever something that he got into or explained. So by the time I was born, he was no longer in. I don't really have any understanding of what that all meant. So if somebody is online and they're feeding a line about military stuff and they really make it sound credible, oh, yeah, I'm here and I'm doing this and I'm a doctor and I'm here for the U.S. military and I'm really interested in helping people. And they really kind of focus on what sounds humanitarian about it versus the semantics that are inaccurate. Somebody is not going to know better. They're not going to step back and go, oh, yeah, this sounds suspicious. They're going to go, yeah, okay, maybe it sounds a little off, but I'm going to accept it as credible. And in recognizing and saying that from a factual perspective, I remember that there was somebody who approached me on a site. I'm not going to tell you what site it was because, to be truthful, I don't remember. And he told me he was a doctor and he was on a secret mission in the army in Syria, and he couldn't talk about it and he couldn't say anything about where he was, and something about it didn't sound right to me. So I went and looked it up and I said, look, your branch of the military hasn't been in Syria in a number of years, so try again. And I got blocked. But most people don't listen to these people and go, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to try to look up what they're saying. They might have a hesitancy. They might think that something sounds a little bit off. But instead of embracing that and holding to that and running with that, the more credibility that it sounds like this person has, the less they're going to be apt to do their investigation. So that has a dual benefit for the scammer. For one, it sounds sensitive and in touch with the world in a way that many men aren't. And I don't mean that as a slam on men, even specifically American men. That is not meant to be a slam. I mean that the average man has a job and he has responsibilities and he has things to take care of. And he's not exactly preoccupied with being on the front lines of a war-torn nation in order to assist with surgery. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he has an immediate life, and that situation that's going on over there right now is not his burden. It also makes an individual really difficult to trace. If they are in the military or military adjacent and overseas, especially if you don't know a lot about what that might look like or be like, their sketchy ability to be in touch or claiming that they can't live video chat or that, oops, connection is dropped all the time, or that they have a funny accent, all that can seem entirely viable. So imagine having this image of a guy who looks like he should be on the cover of GQ with an extreme burden and sensitivity for all the do-gooder things many women claim to love, and then you have this fantastic, great-seeming guy in your inbox. It seems too good to be true, right? Well, that's because it is. If he sounds too good to be true, that's because he is too good to be true. There is a reason we have that expression. Along with this elaborate world of military or military-connected civilian perfection are claims often of an extensive fortune, maybe homes in multiple parts of the world, and pictures that are either stolen or photoshopped, usually of white older men or very, very buff, muscular men. That being said, the photos that are used are obviously not the people in them, and those people have no idea their images have been stolen or are being used for such purpose. Thus, they are also victims of this scam, even though they don't realize it. Sometimes they might use the likeness or images of celebrities and claim to be them. I cannot tell you when I was on one particular site how many men claimed to be Chase Rice, because apparently Chase Rice lives somewhere up around Asheville and they could easily, being in North Carolina, duplicate that lie. Or I have a couple of screenshots, one pretended to be Jeffrey Dahmer, like that was a selling point. Or one in particular, very common one, was to pretend to be Keanu Reeves. I think I don't remember his name offhand, but he was the guy who was Lady Gaga's boyfriend for a while, who is on Chicago Fire. There was one who pretended to be Kevin Costner. They're on there, and even though Several of the people that are on there are actually married. They're pretending to be looking for a mate. I remember seeing one episode, I think it was on Dr. Phil, where the woman believed she was dating Tyler Perry. And Tyler Perry didn't know anything about any of this. If you study the pictures as a rule that scammers use long enough, you can see where the photos tend to be edited. It does take a little bit of examination, but the way the people are positioned in the photos and the way things often look out of place are noticeable. It's customary for the men to present as widowers, sometimes divorcees, but usually widowers. Sometimes having children, sometimes the children are very young, sometimes they are older, but often going for that overly muscular buff man to an older captain-looking fellow that's salt and pepper in appearance. And this is once again what foreigners assume American women want, without considering that there's plenty of people over here who don't really go for older men or extremely wealthy men who are in other countries, or for that matter, who are white or excessively buff. Like, for example, with myself, I don't particularly care for either type. I don't like men that are overly muscular, and I really don't like older men. So, and I've talked about that on this podcast. So, this is all part, though, of the way that the scams work. Because if you really take the time to think about what they put forth, they really have no idea what American women want, what's reasonable for us to have in terms of where we might live or what might be around us, and they really don't know what we're looking for. They think that we're looking for this fairy tale romance that is often perpetuated in images. From what I have been told, there are also scams that do target men. But from what I understand, there's also the dynamic that many women on dating sites operate via bots. They want a man to buy their pictures or visit their porn sites or go to their paid live stream, rather than being so much about a relationship, although those scams do exist, and in such instances the details are a little bit different, but the goal is the same: to present as a perfect candidate for a relationship, offering perhaps the allure of a woman who is looking to be a housewife or who wants someone to take care of her. According to some recent information I read, AI-generated fake women are now the latest component of dating app scams targeted at men. Other scammer fronts might include foreign government jobs, such as a diplomat, being on some sort of secret clandestine mission, like for the CIA, work on an oil rig or some sort of oil dealing or ship, or something related to some top espionage job or something else that seems both cool and clandestine at the same time. Profiles often have few friends, maybe a handful at most, and are either all women or all foreign. So the individual's name might be John Banks or something that sounds very English in nature, but every person on their friends list is African, or all the places where they've been are too scattered or disorganized to really be real. There's also the option to scan down a page where it notes they used to be a whole different race or person in their photos, or their gender obviously doesn't match what they present themselves to be. Now, this is not a slam on trans or queer individuals, but they have a profile that says they're female when they say they are male or something to that extent. So their identity and how they identify does not go with the information that they're presenting. They may also have strange about me details, such as saying they went to Oxford University or work at U.S. Army Military America, or something else of that nature. I remember a fake profile I saw once that said that they studied at Mariah Carey, and I said that must have been interesting. So the scam starts to unfold, and they typically follow a typical pattern. You meet somewhere on a social media or dating site, and then they want, soon after, to move off that site to something such as WhatsApp or Google Chat. You start hearing from this individual with this vague leading backstory, and with an exchange or two, they're already, quote-unquote, in love with you, which is supposed to distract you from asking many questions. If you ask a lot of questions, they grow angry or offended, especially if your questions relate to suspicions that you're having about the whole situation. Like, gee, this seems kind of fast, or that they always seem to be talking to you in a real complex, poetic fashion. Not in a way that sounds much like people talk to each other, or in broken English that resembles a West African accent rather than one that's native to an American speaker. There's also the way that you may talk to them and they don't remember certain details, or details of the story might change. And that's because you're actually most likely talking to more than one person and they are using poems and script found on different scammer sites throughout the web. And if they can keep you talking long enough and get you to overlook things, especially the broken English and buying the details of the story that keep you from asking many other questions, then the situation will progress again. At this crucial point, something might come up where they start to ask for money. There are different situations, but the first might sound like, hey, let me help you out and teach you how to invest in cryptocurrency. Or, hey, I know we've never met in person, but let's talk about marriage. Something more personal might be that there's been some kind of disaster, and either them or some family member is suddenly sick, injured, or in jail, and money is needed immediately. Or maybe it's that they have a gift or need help with a delivery, and somehow, someway, all these things have one thing in common. They suddenly need your help to sort it out financially. Now let's step back and think about the situation they presented in the beginning. Why would someone so affluent need your help with a fee of some sort? Why can't they take care of it on their own? If they've got all this money and they're over there working and they're over there doing this type of thing, they're getting paid to do it, they're not over there as a volunteer, why do they need your money? Well, the hope is that they're not going to ask that question. It's that you're going to be so emotionally invested that you're going to be more concerned or intrigued, depending on whatever the situation is, and you're going to overlook the fact that they should have their own money, or you're going to overlook the fact that there's something not right about this, and you're just going to send them this money. That transaction often takes place through cryptocurrency, a bank wire transfer or payment, gift cards, a payment app, or most common, Western Union or MoneyGram. And it might start out as not a whole lot of money. But what happens is, let's say you send them that first payment. And you assume then the situation is resolved and you go back to the relationship that you seemed to have prior. Well, within a few days it'll be something else. Maybe there's a tax or tariff on something, or there's a legal fee that needs to be covered. They owe more money on a bill, etc. And they will want more money, and it increases more and more over time, often shipped to Nigeria, even if that's not where they say they are, literally until you stop or are broke. There are incidents where people also send goods, buy cars, etc., all in the name of thinking they're in a relationship. And this is with somebody that they've never met. This is just somebody that they're talking to online. But when it's time to visit, they often are constantly unable to come and visit due to their extensive issues overseas. They might promise to come later but can't ever come because they are further delayed due to work, issues, complications, passport matters, governmental delays, deployment, etc. What they will do is continue to ask for more money. They also might grow more sketchy about things like showing their face, or may request private pictures for a later point in time. If you reach a point where you start laying down the line, they might threaten to publish private photos, or may try to make you feel guilty for doubting them. The ultimate goal of a scammer, I would say, is worked in methods both cruel and manipulative. Because their goal is their own profit. They're not concerned for their victims' welfare. So if you're going to go without something, don't have any money, are suffering because of their actions, etc., they don't care about it. They will keep bleeding you dry indefinitely. And I know it's a cruel sounding reality, but it's also very, very real. So what happens if you've been taken in by such a scam? If you haven't yet given any money, but it's getting to that point, Immediately cut off communication with the scammer. Stop talking to that individual, stop giving explanations, do a clean cutoff, and the sooner the better. If you paid a scammer with a credit or debit card, you need to contact the agency that issued it and tell them that there was a fraudulent charge and request them to reverse the transaction and to refund your money. If they have made some sort of an unauthorized transfer from a bank account, immediately notify your bank of unauthorized debit or withdrawal. Request them to reverse the transaction and return your money. With gift cards, contact the company that issued the gift card. Tell them it was used in a scam and ask them to refund your money. Keep the gift card itself and the receipt. With wire transfers or Western Union or MoneyGram, contact the wire transfer company. Tell them it was a fraudulent transfer. Ask them to reverse the transfer and refund your money. If it was done through your bank, contact your bank and report the fraudulent transfer, asking them to reverse it and return your money. If it was done through an app, once again, contact the company to reverse the payment. If a debit or credit card was linked to the app, report the fraud to the applicable company and ask them to reverse the charge. With cryptocurrency, there is typically no reversal answer. It's typically not reversible when you've dealt in cryptocurrency. Thus, don't make these payments hastily or under any suspicious circumstances. People only get money back with cryptocurrency if the person you paid returns it. Still, if there's any chance, contact the company and tell them if it was a fraudulent transaction, and then ask them if possible to reverse it. In instances of cash, if cash was sent by mail, contact the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and ask them to intercept the package or contact another delivery service used as soon as possible. When you gave other information, so maybe you didn't send money, but maybe they had some other information. If you provided a social security number, you need to contact identitytheft.gov to see what you do. If you provided a password and username, change your passwords everywhere as soon as possible. If you gave a scammer remote access to your computer, update security software, run a scan, and delete anything that comes up. If a scammer took control of your cell phone number and account, contact your provider to get your phone number, change account passwords, and check all banks and cards for unauthorized charges. Lastly, report any and all scams to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. So, how do we kind of summarize this very, very serious topic? The first thing I'd say with this is that as much as maybe we don't want to be, we need to be a bit guarded online, especially when we don't know people for ourselves. Online dating can be a complicated and awful experience. I know that firsthand. But that doesn't mean we should let down our guard or let red flags slip by because we don't want to deal with the process anymore. And if something seems too good to be true, as I said before, it is. Second, I think we can all use to check our profiles and make sure we aren't giving out too much information about ourselves. I'm not saying be totally mute and never give out any information about yourself, but not everyone needs to know every detail of your life on social media. And sometimes we are very casual about giving out a lot of details that could be utilized by someone with a bad motive. When we are first talking to someone, whether it's as a friend or a potential mate, less information is better. General ideas, general conversations are better than providing excessively personal information. The next thing I'm going to say is that community is key for relationships. I understand, especially nowadays, that meeting people is a difficult thing. The way that people are often doesn't help. But you need an in-person community. You need people to talk to bat around ideas and such with. You need church, you need friends, you need people who share your interests, and so on. And the better community support you have, the less likely you are to isolate and take up with someone who is out to scam you. If something sounds a little out there, it's better to let others hear what's going on and let them raise doubts, rather than you get into a mess that might cause a lot of problems down the road. Third, don't restrict life to the world of online everything. There's tons of things to do and see in the world around you if you are willing to see it. and being too absorbed in online things of any sort isn't healthy. Navigating online dating, even online friendships, isn't for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with it not being for you. Saying no and being comfortable with no is also vitally important in any relationship. So if someone doesn't respect your no, you shouldn't open up your wallet and say yes. Lastly, be informed. Know the signs of a scammer and at any suggestion that something is wrong. Get the right information and dump anyone who treats you like a personalized bank. I thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast today, and I do hope that it is serving an educational purpose for you all. And if you'd like to read a book that I wrote about relationships, I encourage you to check out my book, Discovering Intimacy, A Journey Through the Song of Solomon. That's Discovering Intimacy, A Journey Through the Song of Solomon. You can check that out on Amazon.com. Look me up, Dr. Leanne B. Marino there, or wherever books are sold, and you will find all of my titles. Definitely check it out. There's a lot to offer in the relationship arena. There is definitely also something for everyone. So go and look me up. Once again, Dr. Leanne B. Marino, and see what's there for you. Also, I encourage you to check out my Patheos blog. I am a Patheos columnist at patheos.com/blogs/leadership on fire. That's patheos.com/blogs/leadership on fire. Connect with me on social media at Kingdom Power Now all over the internet. That's at Kingdom Power Now. I am on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and other places and beyond. So definitely look me up at Kingdom Power Now. Let's start a conversation. I'd love to hear about what you'd like to learn more about, what you'd like to hear about on this program. I love feedback, so definitely contact me on there. If you would like to learn more about the world of counterculture Christianity, feel free to visit my website at kingdompowernow.org. That's kingdompowernow.org. Also, if you would like a seminary program that is completely affordable, we are revamping our seminary. It is now Apostolic Covenant Theological Seminary, ACTS for short, and check out our website at acts176.org. That's acts176.org. It is completely affordable. We do accept donation-based tuition. You can do it from home. Many books are covered, so definitely check us out at acts176.org. If you are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area and you are looking for your community, you are looking for an in-person community that's not so big that you get lost and not so small that you're totally alone, check out Sanctuary International Fellowship Tabernacle, better known as SIFT, where there is no favoritism, just family. And check us out at welcomeinthisplace.org. That's welcomeinthisplace.org. And if there is information that you don't find on the website, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to get back to you. And this is Apostle Dr. Leanne Marino reminding you in closing that the only thing that's worse than being scammed is continuing in one. So if you know or suspect that you're being scammed, take some steps back, take a deep breath, and start again without them. Until next time, be blessed. Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Now. I pray it proves to be a blessing in your life. To learn more about this work, ask a question, submit feedback or a topic suggestion, advertise on air, or donate to this work, visit my website, which contains essential information and links for other points of contact around the web at kingdompowernow.org. Also, if you are in our area and would like to visit Sanctuary International Fellowship Tabernacle SIFT, visit welcomeinthisplace.org. Until next time, this is Apostle Dr. Leanne Marino reminding you that the kingdom of God is within you, and that means the kingdom is now.